Now, please welcome to the stage Chief Operating Officer of Federal Student Aid, Dr. A. Wayne Johnson.
The Allman Brothers, Macon, Georgia. Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great day yesterday. I know I did. I had the opportunity to go around and meet a lot of people. It's just incredible the enthusiasm that I'm able to pick up and the great vibes. And, thank you for welcoming me. As many of you know, this is my first year being associated with Federal Student Aid, and I'm finding it to be everything I expected and more because of the people in this room. Thank you so much. I also had the opportunity to go around and look at the sessions, and what I learned very importantly is people in this room asked some very, very specific, intense, and direct questions. I kind of felt sorry for Matt and Bill and those folks. Particularly there was this very charming lady who seemed to have a never-ending list of questions. My only response at the end of watching that was, let's get her name because she really can help us be better, and we appreciate that. So thank you so much. I want to kind of start things off by, today is Spirit Day, and in keeping with Spirit Day, and kind of to get the blood flowing and wake us up, I'm actually wearing school colors. You're going to have to guess which school. I'm not going to tell you. I'm supposedly not supposed to promote any one school over another. But what I'd like to do is have everybody give their school roar. So on the count of 3, I'd like you to stand up and as loud as you can possibly say it, raising the roof, say whatever you want to say. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go Bears! All right. What I would normally do at this time is ask the people who didn't stand up to go ahead and do it, but we had a good enough. I saw you speaking from your seat, so I appreciate it. Okay, today I'm going to go through some basically priority remarks in terms of the priorities that I've decided to set for Federal Student Aid early in my tenure. And then I'm going to get into some really exciting stuff. And I don't know if y'all have picked up on the media, but the Secretary's remarks have been carried pretty far and wide in the press, and all in a very, very positive light. Acknowledging that she's in tune with what we're doing, and then, of course, a lot of discussion about going mobile. You'll hear more about that in just a few minutes. One of the things I was asked to do was talk a little bit about myself, which is always one of the hardest things to do, and that is, how did I get here? Why am I standing in front of you today? Well, I think I'm testimony that if you get a college degree, there could be a very short path to getting a relevant job, because it was only this past November that I actually had my PhD in higher education finance awarded, and basically in July, Undersecretary Jim Manning and Secretary DeVos asked me to head up FSA. So there must be some kind of a direct linkage between getting that degree and getting this job. So I'm really an advocate of college creating a good career path. So that was, nice. Thank you, Jim. There's a story behind that, but not for today. So the other part of why I'm in front of you today is, why am I qualified, or why do people think I'm qualified to be in front of you today? Well, first and foremost, I've spent 40 years in financial services. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the major card brands in the world. Actually, at one time ran the entire Visa organization's market branding and product development organization. I've worked with a number of different banks around the globe, very international bent to it. Have been the CEO of several different companies, small companies, large companies, so I know what it's like to take something from an idea and bring it to market, and take a large company and basically, as many people say, try and turn the battleship. But it's exciting to be in an environment where we've got the latitude, the support, and the opportunity to do some incredible, meaningful things. And, as the Secretary said the other day, or said yesterday, excuse me, and we often talk about when we're together, we are actually an embodiment of the world's single largest special purpose consumer financial organization, and each and every person in this room plays a role in helping those financial services be made available to students. So I think it's a combination of financial services, the higher education, finance leadership, and CEO leadership that, I guess gave the Secretary and Undersecretary Manning the reason to hire me. So enough about me. The fidelity to mission, absolutely 100% committed to making things better for students every day in every possible way. That's what I'm about, that's what the organization's about, it's permeating the entire Department of Education. We have a mandate from Secretary DeVos, and that mandate is to make it as good a financial services experience as exists anywhere in the world, rivaling the likes of an American Express, a Capital One, anybody of that nature. And we have the platform capability to do so, and we have the greenfields opportunity to do so. So you can't get into this business and you can't do it well, and you certainly can't do it in today's environment without having a keen focus on cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is one of the mantras, one of the cornerstones, one of the elements that will underpin everything that we are doing and everything that we will do within FSA. And cybersecurity and our focus and interest in cybersecurity will reach into the office of everyone that's in this room. Cybersecurity starts with every single person being aware that there's a risk and being committed to protecting the data and being alert to how that risk can manifest. So we're very much committed to expanding, deepening, and leading the way with regard to how to protect ourselves from cyber threats. One of the things that we have found, or I have found since I've been here, is that many times the folks in this room know what needs to be done, but for whatever set of reasons, cannot necessarily get the attention of the president of your university or college, cannot necessarily get the respect out of the board of trustees that, in essence, y'all represent the majority of the financial flows that come into any college or university. So one of the things that we have done is we've established a new office within Federal Student Aid, and that's the office basically of outreach from the Chief Operating Officer. Since I can't get around and talk to everybody and help carry these missions forward, we've hired Dr. Charles Patterson, who comes from a university system, to actually be the empowerment and the voice to reach out to the executive levels of any school and truly bring to them and to their attention how important their financial aid office to the overall organization. And he's there to help reinforce and carry the message that you folks are the ones that are powering up the lifeblood of the university. And if we need to get attention, we can get it. And if y'all need us to help you get attention, please do not hesitate to call upon us to help elevate the necessary attention within your school or university. Additionally, we've hired Dr. Michael Dean to oversee enterprise risk management. So you're seeing a theme here, cybersecurity, risk management. If we're going to be the level of organization that we are absolutely committed to being, then we've got to make sure that we're underpinned with cyber protection, with overall risk mitigation and risk management strategies. But risk is interesting. Risk is not for the purpose of telling you what you can't do. Risk evaluation is for the purpose of telling you what you can do. I'm often reminded, somebody one time asked me, why do cars have brakes? My logical answer was so you can stop. He said, no. Cars have brakes so you can go faster. Because if you can go faster and you have the confidence that you can slow down or stop, then you have the ability to move along at a more rapid pace. And that's the way we look at enterprise risk management. Hopefully you will as well. In keeping with enterprise risk management, we are very much committed to making sure that the integrity of the system stays intact at all times. We get a lot of help in trying to understand that from some of our friends on Capitol Hill and other places. But at the end of the day, we have got to make sure that every single player that is a recipient of, or has the ability to allow their students to be a recipient of Title IV funds is in fact a great player and a great contributor to the system. And to that end, we definitely have an enforcement division. And I recently hired Dr. Julian Schmoke to head up the enforcement division. And he has experience both in the for-profit world and the not-for-profit world. And I brought him on board specifically because he has that balance. It's important for us to, as we go through our enforcement actions, to make sure at all times there's a balance to what we do. We understand the power of withholding Title IV funds. We take as they said in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, and we accept and understand the responsibility that goes with that authority. So we're doing everything we can to improve cyber understanding. We're doing everything we can to improve outreach and communication and the elevation of the importance of federal student aid and the financial aid offices of every university. And we're doing everything that we can to enforce the integrity of the system. Now, Secretary DeVos asked me what were the couple of most important things that I wanted to address as I took over the office. Well, the first thing I said is I really, really, really would like to see us improve the FAFSA form. Not just the FAFSA form, but the entire FAFSA process. You heard a hint of it yesterday. We'll talk a little bit more about it today. But I told her equally as important, because when I was doing my research for my PhD, I spent a lot of time talking to financial aid officers at different universities and colleges, certainly focused in on one. And one of the things that came through incredibly loud, incredibly clear, was we in this office, I'm talking about your office, need more time to deal with students where, for the most part, understaffed, and we really need these regulatory burdens off of us. And the most significant regulatory burden that we need to be lifted from us is the requirement to continuously do verification of application information on the FAFSA. I've heard it at least 40 times now, and it rings and resonates with me every time I hear it. Why do we have to make poor people continue to prove that they're poor in multiple different ways? It makes no sense. And we are committed to relieving and releasing that regulatory burden. Later, you'll hear from one of my colleagues who'll talk about what we're doing on the regulatory front in that regard. Improper payments. One of the weaknesses within federal student aid, it's been brought to light on multiple occasions. It was brought to light in a congressional hearing a year or so ago. Actually, not quite a year ago now. And probably one of the reasons I'm here, by the way. And the long short of it is, this year we reported improper payments of $6 billion. That's shown up in our 2017 report that was just released on November the 13th of 2017. And so the net of it is, this is something that we have got to address. There's two elements to that. There's the forecasting methodology, which basically says we expect improper payments to be at this level, and it's a function of the sampling methodologies that we use. But we also have root cause issues associated with improper payments. And as boring as it may seem, it really, really, really is an important issue with just about everybody that is involved in funding federal student aid. And as y'all well know, an improper payment can either be an overpayment or an underpayment, but it basically boils down that the monies that we release out of FSA to schools, schools use their portion, they put other portions in the hands of students, and when we get through the reconcilement process, we're currently seeing that we've got root cause and projections of around $6 billion a year. I said $6 billion of our taxpayer money a year, and we've got to close up the root cause of improper payments. We're certainly going to address the forecasting methodologies, and we're going to need your assistance in doing that. So I've talked about the holistic approach to basically enforcement, to risk mitigation, to the things that go on behind the scenes that make the system work. I also want to talk about something that is extremely important to America, and that is the bad actors that exhibit themselves in the way of third-party debt relief organizations. Please, as you go forward and counsel your students, Help all of your students understand there is no free lunch. Help them understand that when somebody approaches them by telephone or text or whatever other means of conveyance and says, for a few $100 or $1,000, I can make your student loan debt go away. Those are third-party debt relief companies that are preying upon basically the hopes and aspirations of our generation, and we need to stop this. We've been working on a coordinated basis with other governmental agencies to take actions. You're going to see more direct action towards the third-party debt relief companies. But having said that, each one of y'all has a frontline. I'll applaud that one. Each one of us has a frontline opportunity to help people understand, do not be seduced by somebody that says, for a few $100, I can get you out of your student loan debt. Earn your way out of it. Take advantage of the many programs that we've got. We've got wonderful programs for making the repayment of these obligations very affordable to students, and we will be taking very assertive action to help every student understand the many different beneficial programs that are available to them. We're also looking at credit reporting. One of the things that we're very much in tune with is that this is very much and very often the first financial product and first financial service that students have. At the time that these loans are put on the books, it starts the credit reporting cycle. Actually, everybody's credit report starts with the moment in time that they get a Social Security number. But we are constantly presented with situations where people have finally woken up to the fact that by having either improper information or bad information that may or may not be improper in their credit reports has a profound impact on them getting on with their lives. Student debt by itself has a profound impact in getting on with your life. You compound that with a bad credit report, and you certainly have some issues. So we're going to be taking a lot of intentional actions to help people understand the importance of maintaining the integrity of their credit reports. And we're going to be working very closely with our servicers to make sure that information is accurately reported. We've had the opportunity to talk with the credit reporting agencies, and they are fully in sync and on board with this. Now, get to something near and dear to all of us, and that's the completion of the FAFSA. As we well know, about 58% right now of high school graduates complete the FAFSA. As we all know, you don't get a penny. You don't get a single penny of student financial aid unless you complete that form. Now, we'd like to see that moving towards 100%, but what we really want to see is everybody that has an aspiration or even a thought or a dream or a notion of moving forward and getting higher education or either jobs training, that they will complete the FAFSA. And we even look towards having the concept of a pre-FAFSA as early as the 10th grade so people can get used to the process, and by the time they hit their senior year of high school have actually gone through the process of completing it. So a compilation of making it simpler, making it more accessible, and some pre-training in that regard is something that we're definitely looking towards. So one of our aspirational components is to make educational pursuit accessible to anybody and everybody. We're very much in tune with the population set that this is a first-time encounter, a first-time experience, and we got to do additional outreach and additional efforts in that regard. So we want to make it simple, we want to make it accessible, and we want to make it maybe even a little fun. We'll see. All right. Transitioning. I want to give you fair warning. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to put out a lot of information. I would be amazed if anybody in this room can absorb it all in one sitting. But having said that, don't let it overwhelm you. Part of this is reality, part of this is intention over the next 12 to 18 months. But the bottom line is, starting today and forevermore, federal student aid is changing, and it's changing in a very good way. And to give you kind of a little insight and a little taste, how about somebody rolling this clip for me? You like that? Can I hear a great big yay? Let's look at it again. Piece of trivia. Chuck Leavell, who's the keyboardist for the Rolling Stones, lives in Macon, Georgia. He says he might be using that in their next Rolling Stones gig. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'd like to introduce you to actually a revolution and a transformational point in time for federal student aid, for all of you in the audience and for everybody in America. The next generation financial services environment. We've introduced you with a taste of what we can do with regard to mobile around the FAFSA form. We're going to show you a little bit more. I got control now, I think. So where are we today and where are we heading? Okay, this is the current state that we're in. To the left is the whole exercise that we go through to complete the FAFSA form. Every single organization in this room plays an incredible and vital role with regard to what we do with federal student aid, and there are 6,000 offices plus of people that literally are the engagement points for money being distributed. As you well know, you work through the origination and disbursement system, and then at the point in time the loan is made, it goes into one of our account servicers. There's 9 of them, all doing an outstanding job. I want to dispel the myth that they don't. They do a fantastic job. Our complaint rate is 0.002%. By way of comparison to the financial services industry, that is a phenomenal complaint rate. Now, it is complex. You do have to invest time, but that's the way it exists today. 9 different players, 9 different systems, 9 different experience factors. We have the default servicing and the collections. Hopefully nobody ever gets there. And if we do our job as well as I'm convinced we'll do, we'll certainly have fewer people there. But I want you to notice across the bottom, the branding experience. And let me talk to you about branding just a little bit. I have a little experience in that, having managed the Visa brand on a worldwide basis. And somebody once asked me, why is a brand important? A brand is important because it is what is the mechanism by which the brand promise and what you can expect to realize from that brand is defined. So, you know, when we first started the Visa card program, and by the way, this gray hair shows you that I literally go back to when the Visa card was first started. That tells you a lot. By the way, so it also tells you lots happened in 40-something years. And basically, it all boiled down at that point in time that there was a decal on a window and there was a card, and if you matched this card to that decal, then you had an expectation that you could present your card, it would work through the system, and eventually it would show back up on a statement. And the merchant had the expectation that if they accepted that, presented the little, knuckle banger piece of paper, believe that, knuckle banger piece of paper. I was interested yesterday when I heard the dial tone from the secretary. It was brilliant. Nothing else could have said how more arcane our system is than that dial tone. But as we evolved, the brand promise became more and more and more. So you get to the point in time when you hear a brand, you know exactly what comes to mind, what conjures to mind in terms of an expectation set. Apple, Amazon, certain banks. So we can go on down the list. But our brand situation gets fractured. Pretty much everybody understands that the Department of Education and FSA is behind the FAFSA form. But quite frankly, when it comes time to the money flowing out, they're fully convinced that the schools actually gave them the money. And many times, they're not even completely understanding that they actually signed up for a loan. They said, wait a minute, I went to the financial aid office. Why am I having to pay this back? Okay, and then of course it gets into the servicers, and each one of these has their brand, and every student, may know one or more of these brands. But again, there's no brand promise that can be consistent in this process. And then of course we get to enter the picture again if somebody's back in or into a default situation. So think of this in terms of complexity, and think of this in terms of how you deal with the brand issues. But I really want you to focus in on an important part of this environment that we currently live in and will definitely live in for forevermore. There's a song, Always and Forever, and we're going to be always and forever in sync with our school financial aid partners, which are you folks in this room. Now, the user experience, the secretary yesterday presented a serpentine type approach. This is more of an arc approach, but basically saying the same thing. Highly fractured, multiple engagement points, different people you're talking to at different stages, and it's just, quite frankly, it's something that takes a lot of investment of time to understand in its totality. So where are we headed? We're headed to the next generation financial services environment. And as we're redefining the financial services environment that we're going to live with and bring to market and embrace everybody with, it's all going to be from an outside-in approach. Instead of us going inside out, it's going to be outside in. And what we're looking at and cornerstoning everything around is the customer engagement layer. Now I want you to pay particular attention to the left side, which says My Student Aid Mobile. And it's not just the FAFSA mobile, it's going to be a totality of student aid experience, self-serviced, and other things added to it, delivered on a mobile basis. I want you to notice to the far right something that's probably the first time ever presented as an actual engagement layer to the financial services environment experience, and that's the incorporation of our student aid partners, the people in this room, every school and every university that we're working with. And all of this is underpinned by the same identical platform, the same identical technology, and whether you're getting information as a student through your mobile, perhaps by talking to your student aid office, which is many, many times the first place that current students for sure go, and even previous students go to say, I need some assistance or I need some information on this. Whether you're signing in on the web, which you're certainly going to be able to do, or whether you're calling one of our world-class call centers, the information access, the database, everything that powers that up will be the same. That's one of the reasons we've got to make sure that the cybersecurity elements are bulletproof. But underpinning will be certainly the cybersecurity protection, the common integrated database, our single processing platform, our recovery systems, of course, and then our origination and disbursement modules, basically operating in the same modality that we've operated in the past. But please take note, we're requesting of you to play an active role on a future state basis with regard to being part of the information exchange with the students. And quite frankly, I think you're going to see that it's going to relax and relieve a lot of the time constraints that you're tied up with, because nothing's worse than having somebody ask you for assistance, them expecting you to be able to provide the assistance, and you don't have the tools to do so. So if you elect, it'll strictly be voluntary, schools will be able to access the same type of systems that everybody else can access in the process. Mobile first, mobile complete. You actually heard it here. This mobile first is a concept very much prevalent in today's financial services world. Mobile complete is a new dimensional component to that, and we do believe that a high proportion of the engagement that students need at different stages of the life cycle can be self-service through mobile. I don't know how many of you are aware, but 54% of all the dollars bought online over the past few days came through a mobile device. 92% of all students in college or university have direct access to a mobile device, more than have access to computers. So you're going to hear us talking about mobile first, mobile complete, and let's call it mobile interesting as well. Now, what's the future state look like? The same type of functional activities underway, but if you'll notice, we've introduced mobile to the FAFSA. We've actually are going to introduce mobile to the COD process, particularly with regard to some new enhanced disbursement methodologies, partially tied into helping to clean up and straighten out some of the improper payments. You'll see, again, a repeat of the engagement layers. You'll see the supporting elements to that. You'll see the introduction. This is probably more technologically in the weeds than you want to go, but you're going to see a heavy-duty middleware that lets us do a lot of the magic that we're going to do. Oh, and I can't go back, but basically across the bottom, a common branding experience so that we can establish a brand promise and deliver upon that brand promise. And that ties into this. The same type of an arc, but again, you can start your whatever you want, let's say your FAFSA, on a mobile device, but you want to pick it back up on a desktop, or you want to borrow your companion's phone to pick it back up, or you want to do it on a tablet, but you're going to be able to do it on an omni-channel basis. You're going to be able to do it by way of mobile. You're going to be able to do it by way of web. You're going to be able to do it by phone-in. You're going to be able to hopefully do it by some direct personal interaction. But everybody operating off of the same information base and the same technology. So mobile, mobile, mobile. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. This is actually the beginnings of what the FAFSA process will look like. We understand when you actually get involved with the FAFSA that there are really three potential parties involved in the transaction. There's the student, there's the parent, and in many cases there can actually be a professional preparer. So as we have gone forward in advancing this, we've set up the role modality for the different players. Be able to drop down, select your school, and the current state will basically be, using the same type of limitation of 10 schools, but in a future state, there'll be an unlimited number of schools that can be put forward. You can also, at the right moment in time, either have your parent fill out the form, or the parent can start the form and hand it to their student, and they can fill it out on the mobile device, or they can transfer an invitation by way of this mobile device to that mobile device to have the parent come in or have the student come in and add their elements to it. Be able to sign it with your fingertip on the face of your phone. And believe it or not, if you've got a driver's license, you're going to be able to take a photograph of the front and back of your driver's license, and it'll pre-populate a tremendous amount of the information that's there. Or you can bring it in, of course, through your FSA ID. And then instantly, you're going to know what your expected family contribution is, and you'll also know what the Pell Grant Award or any other grant type award might be. So you fill it out, do it, what have you. Now, to help you understand, today's state of the world is what we call FAFSA 1.0. What you're going to be able to see later today and actually have in your hands is FAFSA 2.0, which is actually the current set of questions, but presented in a mobile fashion, and FAFSA 2.1 is where you can actually have it in a role modality. And just a hint, FAFSA 3.0, if we can get to that point, we've already got it from a technological standpoint, but if we can get some support from our congressional colleagues, you're going to see some really interesting magic happen about how we can get the FAFSA down to a very, 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 very simple and almost enjoyable process. That's the best laugh I've had all day. All right, so the FAFSA future. Further simplification. As we were here yesterday, there were hearings going on in Congress where people were talking about presenting ideas of FAFSA simplification. Fortunately, some of the people that were actually testifying yesterday are people that we have turned to gather information. NASFA, NCAN, those organizations we've been in very close contact with. We've also looked at reports previously put out by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what we found is the information of what we need to do is there. We just needed to bring the technology components to it. We definitely want to work with every school, both colleges, universities, and even high schools throughout the country to increase FAFSA completion. We're definitely seeking congressional support for regulatory relief with regard to regulatory burdens that go on in your office, and also with the things that we need to do to advance the technology. And we also very much need your input, students' input. We're in very much a reception mode right now to understand how can we do a better job of what we're doing. Now, it'd be enough if we just put an app out that took care of the FAFSA. That'd be very cool, actually. But how about, and this is where we are, how about if the FAFSA form is just one component of an overarching suite of engagement activities that you can do through your FSA, My FSA mobile app? Certainly can fill out your FAFSA. You can actually get access to the information with regard to your loans. You can set up payment plans. We're going to provide the schools the opportunity to populate in, which on a basis that we'll curate for the schools, information that they want to present to the students. We're going to have messages that can be included, have a checklist starting with, have you done your entrance counseling, and hopefully ending with, let's do a successful exit counseling session here. But we can do a lot more with this app once we've established the connectivity than just do the simple thing of filling out the FAFSA form. Also, we can routinize a lot of the refilings that are necessary to be done, and that's part of our legislative agenda as well. So, talk to you about FAFSA. You've seen the elements of this. You've seen the different role modality. You've seen the ability to populate with schools. You've seen the ability to understand where you are in the process and what's about to happen next. And looks like in this case, some parent information is required, so you hand the phone to your parent, or you actually send them a text and say, sign in with this secret code here. And then you basically can get some information regarding, the tie into the data retrieval tools and the information exchange with the IRS. Certainly sign off. Get your EFC, see what your Pell Grant awards are, and move on. And then what you want to do is you want to kind of go to a checklist. Have you created a personal checklist? Have we created a checklist for you that you can actually see, important things that you need to address? And so you can schedule this out over time. The schools can populate that in. We can populate. People can self-add. And then, of course, we always want to pat people on the back with the congratulations that you're there. My school, basically, we were smart enough to not try and suppose what you would like for us to do. So we're leaving that absolutely blank sheet of paper for you to tell us what you think should be there. My money. This is a little bit of an interesting, introduction point, is we have the technological ability to put a debit card in students' hands on a no-fee basis and no cost to the university whatsoever, where they can receive money from parents. The school can elect, if they so desire, to put the overage money on that, and it can set up controls of where, when, and how that money is spent. It's an interesting statistic, if we really were to dive into it, to see how many college students have actually used their financial aid money to get tattoos. I don't think that's what we intended the money to be used for. So if you see your financial aid being dispersed and you see a fresh round of tattoos on campus, you kind of know partially where it's tied to. But there's line of sight on how, when, and where the money is used is an important element in terms of addressing the root cause of improper payments. You can always, if you have this card, you can find out what your balance is, get information with regard to where you spent your money, set up budgets, set up control limits, and actually serve as a full-blown financial services product to include, if you want to have electronic bill payment, it'll do that. If you want to, peer-to-peer payments, you can do that. So this is something that we'll be putting in pilot mode in the first, basically around the mid-portion of next year. And again, I want to emphasize pilot, pilot, pilot. Get to your loans. You want to check where your balance are. You want to check how your payment history is going. We believe it is incredibly important early on, like day one, to have people understand that this is a loan obligation, what the consequences of it are, and every time they use some of that money for whatever it may be, that it actually has an implication on their loans. So basically stuff with regard to, first and foremost, making sure that before, tied in with their loans, that they've completed their exit counseling and some other stuff. This is kind of fun, exciting. I said earlier that this is the first time many people have had a financial services product. Why don't we let them be fully aware that this is a financial services product? Why don't we present to them free every month their credit score? Let them understand what is happening to their financial future. Let them start monitoring this. And by the way, not only can you check your credit score, but you'll be able to freeze and unfreeze your credit reports. And another dimensional element is the ability to have basically identity theft protection monitoring coincidental with this. Again, it's a financial services product. We've got the connectivity. Why not start making sure that it comes to life more than just I show up, I get my money, and a while down the path, I start seeing what the consequences of that are. And by the way, part of your loan situation is you'll get to know who your servicers are and exactly have all of that presented in one fashion, in one point. So my rewards, I remember when I was in elementary school, even in college, and even today from time to time, I like getting gold stars. So the rewards basically is a badge acknowledgement that you've completed certain things in your whole overall relationship with the university around financial aid and us. But having said that, we can even get more exciting about what we can do with rewards in the future, but that's for a future, as Chris would say, reveal. So what we'd love to do is we'd love to hear from you today. We'd love for you to come by the different places that we have set up. I think we have a session 33, if I'm not mistaken, is you can get a hands-on with regard to the app process. We also have the Resource Center. We have live phones. You get to actually work with it. We want your feedback. We also want you to understand that these are here specifically for the purpose of getting your feedback. So do not look at these as production ready. So the next question is, when is all this going to happen? Well, basically by mid-2018, perhaps even before, you're going to have this capability will be in the app stores, will be in the Google Play stores, will be available for people to start using. And we're targeting that the next FAFSA cycle, that basically we hope that a lot of people will be executing the FAFSA by way of mobile. Now, having said that, all the other modalities will continue to be available. So I don't know, I can go back. I didn't realize that. Okay, back to the future. So the future of federal student aid is upon us. It's been my great pleasure to introduce this to you today. Like I said, a lot to comprehend in one setting, but I hope you can see that we're actually doing some stuff to move things forward. Now, I'm excited to be given the responsibility, the charge, and the challenge of leading federal student aid. It's probably one of the most important, truly the most important aspects of my career. But I would be very remiss if I didn't acknowledge some of the tireless work and the tireless effort that has gone forward in basically establishing this mobile capability. We've got a lot of people back in Washington right now today that are working very diligently on this, but we have some of the key team members here today. I'd like them to come forward. I'll introduce them, ask you to give them a well-deserved round of applause. And quite frankly, these are the folks that took the idea, took the inspiration, and are very candidly turning it into reality. Feels good, doesn't it? Every organization needs heroes, and these are some of my heroes, along with the other 1,300 people that represent federal student aid. I'd like to introduce you to Terry Woods, Sandy England, I hope I get this one right, KG Paboulis. I rehearsed. Lisa DiCarlo, and the many-faceted and multi-talented Misty Parkinson. And Ed Pachetti, whose paper that he co-authored, or actually was the primary author when he was at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, was the inspiration for me a week into the job that this job could be done. So Ed, thank you very much. And thank you and if there's anybody else from Federal Student Aid that's in the audience that has participated in this, please stand up, give a wave, and I want to thank you very much, as well as the people back home. I'm nearing the conclusion of my remarks, and I thought I would take it upon myself to talk about what we were doing on the regulatory front, but I quickly realized I was not qualified to do that. However, we have with us Kathleen Smith. Kathleen Smith is a colleague of ours. She's currently the Acting Assistant Secretary for the Office of Post-Secondary Education, or affectionately known as OPE. She previously served as the Chief of Staff within OPE for Policy Planning and Innovation. Kathleen has been involved in higher education and financial aid policy for years. She won't let me tell how many. Both in government and in policy positions with Congress, as well as in the private sector. Most importantly relevant to today, Kathleen says that her most favorite job of all time was when she was the financial aid administrator of DeUville College in Buffalo, New York. Let's hear it. Okay. So, in her current role at OPE, Kathleen is involved with the higher education policy, regulatory activity that we are now engaged in and trying to move forward. I asked her yesterday, would she mind filling this portion of my slot? And she said, certainly, who wouldn't want to stand in front of 6,000 people on a moment's notice? So please join me and listen to Kathleen as she shares some insights into what we're doing with regard to our intentions and directions. Kathleen?
That's no lie. They asked me to do this yesterday, so bear with me. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be here. This is actually, in all of my tenure in student aid, my first FSA conference. It's amazing. And to be around, now you're going to think, oh, I'm just playing you the crowd, but honest to God, to be around all of you and to see so many familiar faces and friends that I haven't seen in a long time who are still doing the job, y'all are amazing, and I really, on a personal level and for the department, appreciate all you do and echo the Secretary's comments yesterday to give you a round of applause because what you do is so important, so important. So I just want to take a couple of seconds because I'm not sure I can top this very cool stuff that just happened here. But as the Secretary said yesterday, and as you've probably heard throughout this conference, we are going through this regulatory reform process. And I know, some of you are going, we've done this before. How many remember Fed Up? There you go, good. Well, that was my first experience, and I'm going to tell you then and now, this is not just an exercise. The Department of Education, we're all very much committed to moving forward to make this vision happen, to make the Secretary's vision happen, to put students first, and to get out of your way. So, we're going to try and make that happen. Yes, yay. So as you know, we are going through this process. We've gone through looking at our current regulations. We've looked at our guidance documents. We've released a report on where we are so far on that. We are moving forward here. We've done 2 listening sessions, one in Washington, D.C., one in Salt Lake. We're doing 3 here. We've done 1 yesterday. We have 2 today. Plug for the session because my colleague Lynn Mahaffey and I will be there in session number 15, so come join us. But it's really important for us to hear directly from you, and we take all of that back, and as we go through the processes that we're going through, as we do things, we got a ton of really great feedback yesterday. Some of it was statutory that we can't do immediately on our own, but we will certainly use that as we move forward with looking at higher education and its reauthorization process that's underway in Congress. We are obviously, as you probably know, engaged in 2 very important negotiated rulemaking sessions. We started the borrower defense sessions last week. We start gainful employment next week. And just again, to echo the Secretary, these were well-intentioned, not the most efficient regulations that have come forward. We want to make them better for students. Again, the priority is students, and make your life dealing with some of these regulations less burdensome. We also, to touch on something Wayne said, and to hear a lot of the feedback that we got yesterday regarding verification, I'm just here to tell you, we hear you. So I'll leave it there. But we are also continuing our work both internally at the department, looking at administrative processes that we can work on internally to change, those issues that we need statutory change for, and those issues that we need other agencies to help us bring that vision together to make it easier. So I ask you, while I can't go into very specific issues now because we're in conversations with various agencies, but you have my promise that this is a serious endeavor by the department, and we are moving forward as quickly as we can. So again, and I used to say this a lot when I was involved in student aid directly, or I'd go out and speak when I was working with Congress, please do not underestimate your impact. Okay? You have a room full of feds. Utilize them. These are the experts who can actually bring forward the changes that you want to see. Talk to them. Share your insights. Don't just share the problem. Share your suggested solution to that. And let's work together. Because I think one thing we can all agree on, the Secretary's priority is students. Your priority is? Your priority is? Thank you. So together, our priority is students. So if we concentrate on that, we move forward together to make sure that those that we are serving are well served. There's nothing we can't do together. So please, take the opportunity, utilize the folks that are here, stay in touch with us. I also really encourage you on these neg-reg processes to be involved. I used to get lectured all the time when I sat in those seats by people of the department and say, you have to write letters, and I'd say, sure, sure, sure. Trust me, when I was in Congress, one letter got my attention. 6,000 letters got members of Congress's attention. Don't underestimate what one person can do. Participate. Come if you can. Listen to the conversations. Participate through your state FA, your regional FA, NASFA, all the organizations that work to serve you. I really, really, truly, truly believe, based on my experience, this is where I started. I started in student aid. Students have always been the focus. I am so grateful to be working for a secretary whose focus is students. Let's do this together. Thanks so much.